Kennedy or Campbell, United States.
Mr. United States.
Mr. Kennedy.
I'll make the United States. The United States.
United States. Make sure.
Mr. Campbell.
Mr. Campbell.
United States. United States.
Make the states.
Mr. Kennedy.
Sure.
Mr. Campbell. Mr. Campbell.
Make sure. Make
Mr.
Make sure.
The United States. Make sure.
Mr. Campbell.
United. Make sure.
Mr.
Kennedy.
Make Mr. Kennedy.
United States.
To make the United States. To make sure.
Mr. Campbell. Mr. Kennedy.
The United.
Mr. Campbell.
The United States. Make sure.
Mr. Kennedy.
To make.
Mr. Campbell. Kennedy.
Make sure. Make the United States.
Mr.
To make sure.
Mr. Kennedy.
I make.
Mr. Campbell. Mr. Kennedy.
Mr.
Sure.
Mr. Kennedy.
The United States.
Sure. United States.
Mr. Campbell. Mr.
The United States. The United States. Sure. States.
The United States.
Mr. Campbell.
Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Campbell. Mr. Kennedy.
Or Mr. Kennedy. For Mr. Kennedy.
For Kennedy. For Kennedy.
Mr. Campbell.
Mr. Campbell.
Mr.
Mr. Kennedy. For
The
Mr.
United States.
Mr. Kennedy.
Make.
Make.